Chapter 5. Do you want to climb a mountain? The Kamedake, which came into Jurai's satellite orbit, detached from the Mikagami at the armored dock of the Jurian main defense satellite. It took quite a while to detach it because it was quite deep in Kamedake subspace. Even if we encountered a fortune ship, it would be impossible to separate from the Mikagami like this. Sito murmured while watching the Mikagami come out through the subspace gate of Mikagami's residential area. Mia. Fuku hugged Sana. She seemed to be a little saddened as she watched the Mikagami separate from her. I'm sorry, I know you got along well with Mikagami. Sito stroked her with a wry smile. But wait a while, Fuku. I'll introduce you to a new friend soon. Mia? Just wait. Sito stroked Fuku with both hands a little roughly. Well, let's go, Kariko-chan. She headed for the transfer gate with Kariko. Captain, the Kamedake will go to the designated dock on Tenju as planned. Hakurin was in the operator's seat instead of Kariko. Please proceed. When Sana reached the captain's seat, the Kamedake left the armored dock and started descending to Jurai. It's the second time I've been here, but it's as amazing to see as ever. Last time he saw the view of the sunrise in the early morning, this time it was a daytime view. Tenju was illuminated by the sun, and it allowed the whole view to be seen, but Fuku seemed to be more excited than him to see it. Mia. Well then, Fuku, this is the first time you've seen this, isn't it? Well, when we left Jurai she was still an egg, but didn't the ship record the original arrival? Amain said, looking at Irma for confirmation. Although there's a record in the ship's navigational system, it seems not to be stored as a picture, so in a way this is the first time she's seen it. Oh! Mia. At that time, the image of Tenju displayed on the main monitor of the bridge disappeared. Then all monitors and lights on the bridge disappeared, and it became dark. Hey, what's going on? Fuku. Hey Fuku, what did you do? While sitting idly at the central table, Fuku didn't respond and looked shaky. Please wait. Hakurin quickly activated the safe mode manually. However, they weren't able to regain control. I have no control over the ship, but the ship's navigation and orbit is normal, maybe. At that time, several nerve light lines began to blink in the pitch dark. Is this? Sana, who had been in contact with the royal trees, remembered the light source and its sensation. It's the nerve lights of royal trees. Welcome back. Welcome. Welcome home. Welcome. Mia. Fuku jumped around joyfully in the rain of nerve lights. Is that what I think this is? Hakurin leaned against the backrest of the seat as if she was relieved. Well, what's happening? The royal trees are greeting the Kamedake. No, they are celebrating Fuku's homecoming. Hakurin began to explain to Sana, who looked strangely at Fuku and the rain of nerve lights. This is likely what happens when royal trees who have been away from Jurai for a long time return. Fuku was brought to Jurai, and then she left for quite a long time, didn't she? Perhaps that's why. Sito said that the trees and Ryuoki are closely related to each other. It seems that the trees think she is a relative that has come back. No, on the contrary, maybe they think she is a child born here. The lights started tickling them. Mia. Fuku, who seemed happy, jumped around. Gah. Ha 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 ha. Sana finally burst into laughter with that. All the crew smiled and laughed. Guided by the trees, the Kamedake came to a large dock in the upper common area of Tenju, exclusively used by royalty. The Mikagami was acting differently from the Kamedake as it headed towards the top of Tenju, to a private port in the Masaki family area. The high-ranking officials of the Masaki family, Funaho and Azusa, lined the port and greeted Kariko and Sito as they got off from the Mikagami. Funaho walked up to greet her. Kariko walked a bit uncomfortably up to and greeted her. For Kariko, she was both her colleague and her boss. It was a bit embarrassing to be greeted by her. We've been waiting, Kariko-chan. I'm sorry I didn't get to see you last time. Let's not waste any time with greetings. Funaho gently led Kariko to the front gate. Kariko-chan. After passing through the gate, Misaki finally unleashed herself from Azusa's side and rushed over to hug Kariko. You're the best. Azusa sighed. Misaki was like a ticking time bomb. The reason why Misaki was able to keep from hugging Kuriko for such a long time was that she was in a public place with witnesses. Misaki's hugging was infamous. But her position as the second wife of the Emperor of Jurai meant she had to retain some dignity in public. For those who were born within the past few hundred years, Azusa's regime was recognized internally and externally, but there were still many people who had known Misaki as a child. Even so, Misaki was a respected princess. So, she had to maintain an air of dignity. But Azusa and Funaho were aware that it was hard for Misaki to do so. For Misaki, seeing Kuriko was like being reunited with her daughters after a long absence. Besides, Kuriko was a pretty cute girl who resembled Funaho and was very similar in character. Sakiko-chan was so cute back in the day. I've heard that from a lot of people. But then she went to the academy, and soon Kuriko-chan was born, and she retreated to the earth. Heh. I'm sorry. Oh no, it's fine. You're a part of our family now, but I still want to adopt Sakiko-chan. But that would make me and my mother sisters. For Kuriko there was a considerable sense of incongruity, but for Misaki, who was over 700 years old, the age difference between Kuriko and Sakiko was more like that between sisters, not parents and children. After going through several transfer gates, Kuriko stopped suddenly. What's wrong? As Misaki looked into the face of Kuriko strangely, Funaho quickly noticed the reason. Kuriko, you've already been authorized to enter here. The reason Kuriko hesitated was that she was now in the area of the royal trees. It was a place that was off limits to even royalty if they weren't allowed in. Oh, that's right. Misaki realized what was going on and pushed Kuriko forward. Misaki-sama. Go ahead. The contradiction of this place was that it was the oldest building in Tenju yet looked to be one of the newest. A colorful building material colored like persimmon juice gave it a unique atmosphere. This building material wasn't permitted for use currently, it was wood cut out from Tenju itself, and even though it hadn't been treated or reinforced, it stayed the same as it had been when it was originally cut, and in an odd way it had reintegrated with the living part of the tree. Originally Tenju, or rather Jurai, was filled with a dense green smell everywhere. The passage was full of the rich smell, even richer than the smell of the fresh early morning air. We'll arrive soon, Azusa warned. Misaki hugged Kuriko firmly and dragged her along. Hello everyone, I've been waiting for you. Suzunamaki was standing in front of the door to the chamber of the royal trees. Suzun once fought back against the Masaki family and Sito, but had since given up the position of the head of the Amaki family to his son, and had left all that behind him. His body had been completely transformed since then. He was much older and fatter and happier. In a way, it was a testament to what happened when you got on Sito's bad side. Mr. Suzunamaki, I am Masaki Kuriko. I am sorry to have troubled you today. I'm afraid I'm still a very young person to be given such an honor. To be adopted into the family of the Jurian Emperor is a great honor. I have no intention of defiling that honor. As a member of the royal family, I will make every effort to live up to it, so please give me guidance and encouragement. I've heard about you and your accomplishments for some time, Kuriko. I think a young woman like you will make an excellent member of the royal family, and you have my full support. Suzun narrowed his eyes. It is a pity that we are not able to publicize your true identity as royalty, but Sito is dead set on delaying it. For what reason I don't know. Maybe she just wants you and the Kamidake's captain to be able to live a quiet life. Rude. Sito showed up next to him with puffed-up cheeks. Well then, let's get this started. Well, Kuriko-chan, this time, Sito-sama, Suzun, I and Funaho will be your witnesses, so we will be coming with you. Please put your hand on the door. Thank you. Kuriko bowed deeply towards the four witnesses and put her hands on the huge door with a tense face. At the moment when Kuriko lightly touched the door, which was 10 stories high, began to make a heavy noise as it began to open. The fragrance of a tree similar to a peach fruit came drifting out from inside. Come now, this way. Led by Suzun, Kuriko advanced to the transfer gate. They went into the sanctum with the royal trees. If a person was able to warp on the transfer gate, it would lead them to the second-generation chamber, meaning they would become partnered with a second-generation tree or higher, so it was traditional to step on the warp pad first because about 90% of the people who acquired trees only ended up with third-generation trees, and those who acquired a second-generation tree were rare. Come now, Kariko, let's see how the trees have chosen. Susan said to Kariko, who headed slowly towards the transfer gate. The moment she stood on the plate, it glowed. Oh! A groan rose from everyone on the spot. Wow! Susan was happy with this incident. They were going to be transferred to the second-generation chamber. Before, Susan's son had gotten a second-generation tree, but Susan himself didn't witness it, so this would be his first time there. Are you joining us? Susan said to Funaho and Sito with excitement. No, please excuse us. Sito and Funaho bowed to Azusa, Misaki, and Minaho and remained in place. I'll give you a report later, Azusa smiled. There only needed to be 3 witnesses, the upper limit was undefined. However, Azusa, Misaki, Minaho, and Susan were all for now. After the minimum number of witnesses stood on the plate of the transfer gate, they were sent off. Sana, who was told by Minaho that it would take time to choose a tree, left the Kamedake and headed to the accommodation facility guided by Sito's officers. Mayan. Fuku was in a good mood. Of course, the officer holding her seemed to be in a good mood too. It's a great honor to get a second-generation or higher tree. Hakuren, who accompanied Sana, knew what it meant when it was said that the rituals for selecting trees was going to take some time. Sito-sama's Mikagami is also a second generation, right? Can it control Fuku? The connection isn't formed that way, and I don't think the Mikagami can do that. I think the Kamedake has appropriate countermeasures in place to prevent it. In any case, the Kamedake is a great ship. Unlike that dirty ship piloted by that idiot. Ahahaha. Even so, it's lucky and that's all it needs. Well, it can't be that lucky since it was given such an embarrassing name. The female officers and Sana entered the transfer gate. The gate to which Sana's group were transferred was much smaller than the previous one. Several people were transferred sequentially. Hakuren and her team came out of the gate last. This is the area for the Kamiki family, Hakuren said after looking around. Have you been here? Sana looked around but couldn't see anything to distinguish it from the previous area. Yes, I can tell from the subtle shape of the branches and buildings. We've seen it a lot since we are Sito-sama's female officers. The building in front of them seemed to be some sort of relay point. Everyone, please come here, the leading chief said when they got in the vicinity of the building. Sana stopped walking and looked around. This area reminds me of Sana's hometown, like it's something from the earth. The design shape was durian, but what Amain was sensing was the somewhat rustic atmosphere the building gave off, like that of an old-fashioned rural home. The garden was well maintained, but not meticulously planned. Of course, Jurai had plenty of such places, but this one seemed a little messy. However, Hakuren felt something else was off. She looked around without making it obvious. Is that? Hakuren tried asking a question when. Welcome, Sana. Out of the house came Kanemitsu's wife, Yuzaki. Sana remembered the time they battled. It's been a long time. Hakuren and her team bowed reflexively and lined up. Although she was on maternity leave, Yuzaki was still a fleet captain. Attendants, thank you for your hard work. Attendants? Hakuren frowned. I know it's a bit strange, but I want Sana to get to meet my new daughter, just the 2 of them. Yuzaki's daughter was still a baby. There was no reason for anyone to object really. You might want to take a seat. What do we do in the meantime? Don't worry, I've prepared a special arrangement for you. As soon as Yuzaki said that, the ground where Hakuren and Amain were standing began to shine. A transfer gate. It was a trap-type gate, used to capture enemy soldiers and animals. Amain quickly tried to escape, but it was already too late. They were transferred somewhere else, leaving only Fuku and Sana. Amain! Where's everyone? Sana called. Yuzaki grabbed Sana's arms and rushed him away from the site. It's okay, I have escorts arranged to protect you in their absence. They'll be back by tomorrow. Yuzaki said with a carefree smile that didn't feel evil like Eri, Washu, or Sito's, but the word escorts made him nervous. Fuku seemed a bit worried too. All right, I'm going to leave you alone for a while now. Yuzaki signaled to the officer holding Fuku and left. Where are we? A main, who had been transferred, looked around to check for danger. The place where they were transferred was a building with a domed roof about 20 meters high. The walls and the floor were just grass that resembled velvet. In Jurai there was a type of moss used instead of carpeting on the floor, and in the direction Karen looked she saw a person who could tell them what was going on. What's going on here, Kanemitsu? Karen said. They all turned to look at him. Kanemitsu looked a little disparaged, like he too had been forced into this situation and wasn't having any fun at all. They felt uneasy about the many backpacks that were lined up next to Kanemitsu. What's all this? Then next to Kanemitsu another light was generated, and a woman was transferred in. What? What the hell is this? The woman, who was making a big fuss, was a rare sight in Jurai. It was Nene, Ringo's attendant. Oh no. Why? That only makes this worse. Kanemitsu looked up to the heavens and quickly gave up. Seina, I'm going to borrow Fuku-chan. Seina understood her intentions. I'll bring her back at dinner time. Okay, Fuku, be a good girl and go with her. Mia. Well then, Seina, this way. The female officer headed off with Fuku and Yuzaki guided Seina into the house. Wow, this is a cozy little house, isn't it? As soon as he entered the house, he felt a little relieved by the atmosphere. At first impression, it seems like an old Japanese house. It was awfully nostalgic. A baby was asleep in the living room of the house. Her name is Mikage. The baby woke up and saw Seina. Oh! Ka'a. The little princess saw Seina's face and turned to him with a full smile and stretched her hands out at him. I always show her pictures of you, and recently she's begun to like seeing those more than she likes seeing my husband. Speaking of, why isn't he here with you? Ahaha. Because I don't want to be disturbed. He's together with a main and the girls in Tenji's basement. What? I told you I wanted you two to have some alone time. Yuzaki laughed and placed her hands on Seina's shoulders. I see. I understand the circumstances. Amain and the others were listening to Kanemitsu's explanation. That bitch Yuzaki, that girl isn't even 1 year old yet. It's worse than just her playing matchmaker. I know that Seina is a decent, respectable man. But this is different. She's taken away my daughter. A father is supposed to get about 7 years before his daughter starts hating him. 10 if he's lucky. But she already hates me. Kanemitsu said with a face like he was about to cry. Oh, is that so? I feel sorry for him. They all looked at Amain. Amain, you should know best about this. Is what he says true about fathers? What? Amain looked around with confusion. Fortunately, as there were lots of other women of the same age here, they thought to themselves about it. I'd say that's about right, but I assume there are individual variances. I can't say for anyone but myself. It's said that there is an instinctive fear in men of their daughters becoming adults and feeling that way. But don't women's relationships with their dads usually stabilize once they become adults? I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if he overreaches and messes up the relationship, it will take him some time to restore it. Or not. While saying that, everyone looked at Amain. My dad is clingy and annoying. Of course, I have a good relationship with my mother, so if you take after her, things might go your way more quickly. Amain explained as much as she could to Kanemitsu, but honestly, she was not a psychologist. It was difficult to express her emotions on the subject with words. Well, I guess there's nothing I can do for now. We should probably get out of here. Kanemitsu quickly stood up. Kanemitsu. There's another person's problem we haven't solved. What? Karen pointed as he turned. To do, you idiot. To do? How could you? Nene was scolding herself. Kariko-san. No. Did Kariko get her tree yet? Ringo put down the book she was reading after she had erected a privacy wall around her to take a call from Tadu, her butler. Ringo was in a mansion owned by her family in the Tatsuki family area. The Tatsuki family was the largest faction of the imperial family. Ringo had 8 brothers and sisters. She came from a large family of over 200 people if you included everything from nephews and nieces to her grandfather's great-grandfather. Although it belonged to part of the royal family and the mansion was huge, Ringo's room was only the size of a room that could fit two sisters in it. Yes, last time Minaho contacted us. Since Ringo had an experimental lower-generation tree ship, and because of her role in Seto's accounting division, she needed confidentiality. Mostly, she used Anoka's residential area as her place of living. Is that so? What a wonderful event. The birth of a second generation of a royal tree hasn't been seen in a long time. This isn't good. To do, it's bad to even say such a thing. But it means that Ringo must now become even more aggressive than ever before now. Not only do you have to worry about Kuriko-sama, but the others will rev their relationships into overdrive to compensate now. Previously, Kuriko had packed Ringo in a box and sent her back to Seto. That was something Kuriko had done out of uncontrollable jealousy. I'm not worried. I was able to talk with Sana on Imuum, just by ourselves. But Ringo, you're still handicapped against Kuriko. She is always by his side, isn't she? It's not a competition. Sana needs lots of people to assist him with his biased probability. If I tried to create discord between those people, it would snowball out of control. Of course, going too far would cause a problem. But being too reluctant is bad too, and what if it happens again? If she packed you up like fruits and vegetables and sent you off because she's jealous, what will she do to you when you're a real emergency? Why should I care? You should care a lot, and don't forget, the second time it was Seto who did it to you. You should take the news of Kuriko's second-generation tree and use it to your advantage. The assimilation with the Kamedake was postponed to tomorrow, so Sana will be staying overnight in Jurai. In other words, she should deepen her friendship with Sana. Fortunately, Amain-sama is being entertained in Tenji's basement due to Yuzaki, so Sana is fair game. Tenji's basement? Why were they sent there? Kanamitsu and Nene are also there. To-do, what did you do? To-do smiled at Ringo's question. Ag. To-do, you idiot. How could you to-do? Even though I support Ringo, I wouldn't have disturbed her. You might not disturb her, but you'd get in the way. Nene's personality would have caused obstacles just from her usual meddling. Everyone there was keenly aware of this from their experience with her on Earth. Nene, if you want to complain, then you're going to have to get back up there. Karen said. That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay. To-do, you bastard. I'll show you. I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain. I will complain. Nene seemed to have regained her energy. When do we start? We have to hurry up. They started preparing to climb immediately. Fortunately, GP uniforms, especially the Kamadeke's crew's clothes, were highly functional items that could also cope with emergency survival conditions. They were made to be able to withstand the heat and cold weather, from the absolute 0-degree weather of space to several thousand degrees of heat. Of course, it was strong against a certain degree of impact and corrosion too. They could climb Mount Everest easily, and the backpacks had climbing tools and food items. All right, now what? Preparations were complete. However, Amain looked around. For a moment, the scenery seemed like an illusion, as if a tenji without leaves was turned upside down. Are these the roots? The thick roots reached far into the sky, like a myriad of elongated spider webs. The silhouettes emerging on the ground cast from the thinly lit sky looked like bolts of lightning. It's said that this is where the name of Jurai comes from, Kanamitsu said to the girls, who looked at it stupefied. When the first emperor of Jurai originally discovered this planet, there was no Tenju, or rather, only the bottom part of Tenju was there in its current state. So this underground part was already in the state. He started from here and worked his way up. So that means the founder of the royal family started here. Yes, it's a story that children know well. Tsunami seemed to have been asleep in that spot for a few 100 million days, but her body was gigantic and had half turned into a tree. When the first Jurian emperor got here, he climbed up Tsunami's body. So Tenju is the body of Tsunami herself, as well as Tsunami, the royal tree. As such, Tenju is a tree with an infinite lifespan. Anyways, are we seriously supposed to climb this? The underground part of Tenju was more complicated to climb than one would expect. The space made by erosion and collapse over many years was so large it was hard to believe it was underground. It was like they had a really huge mountain range to climb up. But these are the roots of Tenju, and this basement is in the soil under it. How is the part above ground supported? What you see is only a small part of the roots. In the latest survey, the roots of Tenju have been shown to have reached the mantle, and some of them reach into different dimensions like the royal trees. Cool. It's just like one would expect of the founder of the royal trees. It's still kinda insane to think about though. Even in this modern era, a top-level high-dimensional life form with a power suitable for being referred to as a god was amazing. It would have been better for her to say unreasonable though rather than insane. There are many places in Tenju's basement that we don't fully understand, but it's a place where train routes are being developed, so we aren't totally blind. Kanemitsu, how far is it to the surface? A main asked. About 5,000 meters up. Seriously? How long does it take to climb that far? There is a residential area and a public gate midway. Since we are bioenhanced, it should only take us a day. Still, it's a whole day. What? What about me? I haven't undergone bioenhancement. I have the body of a child. Neju exclaimed. Of course, I'll carry you on my shoulders because you're a shrine maiden. I was dropped here for that reason. How come she gets to take it easy? I won't have it. If we take away that everyone can take, our arrival will be delayed. Is that okay? It will take a week if we go away that someone with the strength of a shrine maiden can handle. Let's hurry, Amain. I don't like that we don't know what's going on up there with Sana. Hakurin said, asking Amain to give up her position. Fuck. Would you mind if I knock some sense into your wife when we get back? Well, I guess, if it can't be helped. Kanemitsu said. Alright then. Let's go. Amain quickly took off. Unlike Amain who started to move, Ringo was still reluctant. I am aware of things that might pose a threat to your pursuit of him. Sana-san is in a bit of an awkward circumstance now. Although I am prepared to deal with the scolding they are going to give me for showing you this, I am prepared to give you all the information I have. Well then, what is it? The situation is urgent. Don't you think you should confirm it with your own eyes? Here it is. The key to unlocking it is in your personal data, Ringo-sama. Fine, I'll talk to you about this again on a later occasion to-do. Ringo glared at to-do as she cut communications and let down the privacy wall. Sister, are you going out? Ringo's sister, Ichigo Tatsuki, who was reading a book with Ringo before she erected the wall, raised her head a little sadly. This was the first time they had gotten to spend together in several weeks. I am sorry, it's urgent. My sister is serving Cedo, so it can't be helped. It's about time we gave up the room to the girls in the lower right. Young children got to use one room at a time in shifts. If a room opened, they moved in order of age. Although I will miss it, it can't be helped. I'll talk to mother for you, so please take care, big sister. Thank you, Ichigo. I'll be going now. Ringo quickly left the room after Ichigo took a deep bow.